Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, Kindles. I'm doing a reader's comparison of all 4 Kindle models that you can currently buy. So this channel is normally about books, but many of those books I consume on various Kindle devices. So as well as being a voracious reader, I'm a bit of a gadget freak. So I've ended up with all 4 of the currently available Kindle models that you can buy from Amazon. So as we are in the run up to Christmas and people may be thinking about asking for a Kindle for Christmas, and we're also in the run up to Black Friday and people might want to buy a Kindle either for themselves or for somebody else, I thought I would make this video just to talk about the differences as a reader between those 4 different Kindle models, so you can make an informed decision about which is the right one to buy. Now, this is not going to be one of those techie videos where I do loads of stuff about all the different specs and sizes and, you know, all that kind of stuff that you see on the tech channels. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm going to talk about, as a reader, what is the experience of reading on these devices like? Because for me, that's the most important thing. And we've reached the point with lots of technology, and Kindles definitely fall into this this bracket, where actually even the cheapest device is really capable and may well be good enough for most people. Technology has advanced to that point now where you're not having to make really big trade-offs when you pick up the cheapest version of the device versus a more expensive version. And talking about these Kindles today, the cheapest one or the most expensive one costs more than 4 times as much as the cheapest one. So there's a real range of prices here. So, you know, shop to your budget, but also consider that actually the cheapest Kindle, the basic Kindle, is, in my honest opinion, as good as a Kindle as most people will need. I really don't see that the more expensive ones offer much above the cheapest one. So let's start with that cheapest one. So this is the Kindle Basic. Came out last year, 2022, I think. It costs, I just checked the Amazon website, I think this costs £85 in the UK, $100 in the US. Now obviously Amazon frequently discount Kindles for like Prime Day, and I'm sure they will for Black Friday as well. So shop around for deals, you will almost certainly be able to get it for less than that price. So this comes with 16 gigabytes of storage. Now storage is one of those things that I think people worry about a lot with devices, and particularly for things like phones it can be really important because your phone storage can fill up really quickly and it can be a big problem when it's full. On Kindles, 16 gigabytes is going to be more than enough for most people. 16 gigabytes will hold hundreds, if not thousands of books. So you don't need to worry about filling it up. And if you do get to the point where you filled it up, you can always just delete a few books. They'll still be in your Amazon cloud, so you can download them at, you know, at any time. So I think 16 gigs is enough, you know, for most people. In terms of kind of performance and screen, so this performs really well. It's got the smallest screen of the Kindles I'm going to talk about today, but the device itself is a really nice size, and that screen size is, I think, fine. It's kind of a bit like the screen size of an old style mass market paperback book, so it's a pleasant size to read on. The screen technology is very similar to the technology in the other Kindles. There's one difference which I'll talk about in a minute, but in terms of the like the resolution of the screen and things like that, it's the same. It's got adjustable brightness. It's, you know, it's backlit with adjustable brightness. It's a really nice device to read on, and because it's smaller, it's really light, so it's the lightest of the Kindles, but it's also small enough that you can put it in your pocket. So I quite often just have this in my pocket when I go out and about, and if for some reason I'm waiting for a bus or something like that, I can easily pull it out and read. So this is actually, at the moment, probably the Kindle I do most of my reading on. It's just a really nice, small, cute device to read on, and I really enjoy reading on it. It's also, so recently my mum wanted a Kindle for her birthday, and this is the one I bought for her. And the reason I went with this one rather than the more expensive one is because of that lightness. So it does everything she needs it to do, but she's, you know, she's getting on in years. She's a little bit frail, so actually lightness is really important to her, and that's definitely something to consider if you're sitting reading, you know, reading on a device for a length of time. Having something that's light is pleasant, and for some people will be a necessity. In terms of like navigation and menus and stuff like that, all the Kindles basically have the same stuff going on. You know, they run the same operating system. The one that's a bit different is the Kindle Scribe, which I'll talk about in a while. That's the most expensive one. But yeah, very easy to navigate, easy to download books onto, etc., etc. The two things this is missing that the Paperwhite and the Oasis have, and I'll talk about those devices in a minute, is a screen warmth setting and waterproofness. So let's talk about that screen warmth setting first. It's a difficult phrase to say, it turns out. I keep stumbling over it. So screen warmth basically means you can adjust kind of the tone of the screen. So this one, as you can see, has, you know, basically a white screen. On the Paperwhite and the Oasis, you can make that screen kind of, you know, kind of warmer, kind of a more kind of yellowy browny tone, which some people like, particularly as you are, if you're kind of reading in bed in the evening, it can be a bit less straining on the eyes. But personally, this actually is the one I use in the evening. I've got devices with the screen warmth setting and I very rarely use it. So actually I think, you know, I don't think that's a deal breaker by any means. Waterproofness, you know, will be up to you. I don't have a problem using this, but similarly, if I'm going, you know, if I'm on holiday and I know I'm going to be sitting by the pool reading, I would probably take the Paperwhite instead. But that's something that happens, you know, I don't go on holiday very often and lays by the pool. So you will know yourself how important waterproofness is to you. I don't think it's that important at all. So basically, this one, the Basic, you know, does everything the Paperwhite and the Oasis do. Slightly smaller screen than either of those other two devices, so that's another consideration. And I will do a screen comparison in a minute, so you can see kind of how much text you get on the screens of the different devices. But yeah, basically it does everything you need it to, as long as you're not too fussed about waterproofness. I think honestly this is the one to go for. Right, next up then we have the Paperwhite. So there's two versions of the Paperwhite to make it even more confusing. So there's like the standard Paperwhite and then there's the signature edition Paperwhite. So I've got the signature edition, but the differences between the two are minimal. I'll talk about those differences in a minute. So the standard one costs £150 over here and I think $150 in the US. I don't understand. Going through these prices is weird because some of them are more expensive in terms of like the, you know, the number, if you like, is higher in the UK than the US, and some are the other way around. I don't get it. Anyway, so 150 in both the UK and the US, and that's for the 16 gigabyte version. So 16 gigabytes, as I say, I think is enough storage for the vast majority of people. What the signature edition has that's different is it's got more storage, so it's got 32 gigabytes. It's also got adjustable screen brightness. So the screen will automatically adjust its brightness based on the kind of environment you're in. I've found that on Kindles to be really hit or miss, and I tend to turn it off as a result. So that I definitely don't think is worth paying more for. The other thing it's got is wireless charging. So all the other Kindles you need to plug in. The Paperwhite Signature Edition you can put on like a Qi charger, one of those mobile phone chargers that you can use with your iPhone or Android phone. But again, Kindles you don't need to charge very often. They generally have very good battery life, with one exception that I'll speak about in a minute. So I don't think you need to worry about wireless charging. So really for me it comes down to, do you think you need that extra storage? Most people I don't think do. So this retails for the Signature Edition then retails for £180 in the UK, $190 in the US. So what does the Paperwhite give you over and above the Basic then? So a slightly bigger screen. So let's do that screen comparison for you. So I've got on here 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. I've opened it to the first page with text on, and I've got the font size, and all the Kindles have adjustable font, which is great if your eyesight is not as good as it used to be. So the font size is set to the same 5. So this is the Basic. This is the Paperwhite. So you can see that screen is a fair bit bigger. I think it's like an inch bigger on the diagonal or thereabouts. In terms of the text, so you are getting about 3 extra lines of text on the Paperwhite compared to the Basic. What that means is you have to turn the page less often, basically. And that is kind of important for Kindles, because it's when you turn the page and the page refreshes that Kindles use energy. Obviously, if you've got the backlight on, they will use energy for that as well. But essentially, it's when you turn that page that they use power. Now, having said that, the battery life on both the Basic and the Paperwhite is great. You'll charge it, every couple of weeks if you read a lot. If you read less frequently, you'll charge it even less frequently than that. And they both have USB-C charging, so they'll come with a cable in the box if you don't have a USB-C cable. But USB-C is what everything is moving towards. The iPhones now have USB-C, even because of the mandate from the EU that they had to adopt that rather than Lightning. So yeah, USB-C, is going to become the standard in the same way that micro USB, which you'll probably be used to, is at the moment. So I think that's definitely a plus for these devices that they've got USB-C. So let me just show you on the Paperwhite then what I meant about screen warmth. So I've got this set to 16. Let's whack the brightness right up. So this goes up to it's also almost on maximum brightness there, and I've got the screen warmth turned right down, so you can see it's very pale, very white. If I turn the screen warmth up then to sort of the halfway point, you can see it's a bit warmer, it's a bit more kind of yellowy. If I go all the way up to the top, you can see it's even more so. So it's a bit kind of softer on the eyes, but like I say, I really don't find it that big a deal. Right, so that is the Paperwhite. So, main advantages really over the Basic are, I think, the bigger screen, plus it's waterproof. But for that, you are paying another, $50 or 65 quid in the UK. So that's, a significant amount. So, yeah, check that screen size out and put that in your brains. That is what you will be reading per page on a kind of standard font size setting of 5. Right, let's move on then to the Oasis. So this is the oldest of the devices on here. So the Paperwhite and the Basic have both had refreshes quite recently. The Oasis hasn't. This Oasis I think is 2 or 3 years old now. And in fact it still has micro USB charging, so unlike the newer ones which have USB-C, the Oasis is still on micro USB, which I think is is not great. It would have been nice if they put USB-C in it at the time that they released it. The Oasis is like the premium Kindle, or was the premium Kindle until they released the Scribe anyway. So the Oasis is the one that is just supposed to be just a little bit better in every regard. What I would say is the format, the big difference with it is the kind of formatting of it, the way it is laid out as a device. So as you can see, whereas the other two are basically symmetrical, the Oasis is asymmetric. So it's got this bar at the side here, which is how you hold it, and the screen will rotate if you flip it around, but you hold it like this, and it's also got the page turn buttons, which I have to say I really like. So the other devices, you turn the page by tapping on the screen. With the Oasis, which keeps on turning off for some reason, with the Oasis you've got these buttons which allow you to turn the page, which is really convenient, and it's a very comfortable device to read on. They're kind of slightly strange design, so you can see it's thicker here, thinner here. It makes it really comfortable to hold in one hand. So that is definitely a plus. And the build of it feels more premium as well. So it's like a metal case, as opposed to the plastic on the Paperwhite and the Basic. And the Basic definitely feels the cheapest of the devices. It's got that kind of slightly hollow, plasticky feel. The Paperwhite has that kind of slightly weird rubberized kind of feeling plastic, which I don't particularly like. And this one kind of feels a little bit sticky, which isn't very pleasant. The other difference actually, which I forgot to say, between the Basic and the Paperwhite is the screen on the Paperwhite is like flush with the case, whereas on the Basic, as you can see there hopefully, the screen is slightly recessed. So that does mean that when you are navigating at the edges of the screen, which you have to change this counter at the bottom here that tells you like how many pages you've read or how much time you've got left in the book, it's a bit easier to do it on the Paperwhite than it is on the Basic. So that is another difference. Anyway, back to the Oasis. So the Oasis, as I say, is like their premium one. It's got waterproofness, it's got the screen warmth like the Paperwhite has, and it's also got a very slightly bigger screen than the Paperwhite. So it's difficult to tell just looking at it like that, but the screen is slightly bigger. So on this, I'm getting basically one additional line of text, no more than that, but one additional line of text on the Oasis versus the Paperwhite. The other difference is, I think I'm right in saying that the Oasis is the only Kindle now that you can get with a 4G modem in it, basically. It's not a modem, but you know what I mean. 4G connectivity. So the other ones you need to connect via Wi-Fi in order to like download books and things like that. The Oasis has 4G, or this one anyway has 4G built in. You can get ones without 4G. The 4G version is slightly more expensive, as you'd expect. That is something that really appealed to me when I bought my Oasis, but actually, which I hardly ever use. It's very rare for me to be out and about and think, oh, I really need to buy a book. And if I do, it's very easy just to tether the device to your phone anyway, so just to use the hotspot on your phone if you need to get that Wi-Fi connectivity. So again, I don't think it's worth paying the extra for the 4G really. So the basic Oasis, capacity wise, comes with 32 gigabytes, same as the signature edition of the Paperwhite, which, as I say, I think is more than most people will need. It's £260, $250. So it's quite a lot more, like £100 more than the Paperwhite, and I don't think it's worth that extra. It does feel like a more premium device, a nicer device. It is really, really nice to read on, but the one Achilles heel of the Oasis is its battery life. Because of this design, there's less room for them to put a battery in it, and I've found that the battery life on the Oasis is significantly lower than on either the Basic or the Paperwhite, to the extent that my first Oasis I sent back and got a replacement one, but the battery life was exactly as bad on that as it had been on the first one. So I think that's important. As I say, Kindles, the Oasis will last days rather than weeks, but it still means you need to think about charging it a bit more. Whereas the Basic and the Paperwhite, I kind of just don't even think about charging. Every so often, every few weeks, I'll just plug them in for a bit. But it's not something you need to think about in the same way that you do with your phone or something like that. Whereas the Oasis, I definitely felt like I needed to think about making sure it was charged. So that is definitely a downside. Right, let's get on to the biggest and most recent Kindle then. Or is it the most recent? Actually, I think the new Basic is more recent than this, but this is the newest, like the first new model that they'd introduced for a while. This is the Kindle Scribe. So there are some really important and very obvious differences to talk about with this. So firstly, it's huge. It's much bigger than than any of the other ones. In terms of the amount of text you get, basically you get essentially the same amount of text as you get on the Oasis, but you get 2 pages worth of it. So you can set the screen layout so that it's just like one page, but I much prefer this double column way of doing it, which feels much more like reading a regular book. So reading on the Scribe is really, really lovely. The other big difference is that it comes with a pen. So the pen you can use to make notes on your books. So if I long press there on a word, you'll see that the option to leave a note pops up, and I can scribble in here with the pen, and that the sensation of writing with the pen is really, really nice. It does feel like writing with a pen on paper. Now, Amazon have made it even more confusing with the Scribe in that there are multiple different configurations for the Scribe. Basically, it comes in three different storage options: 16 gigabyte, 32 gigabyte, or 64 gigabyte, and two different pen options. So there's a basic pen which you can just write with, as I've just shown you, or there's a premium pen, which is the one that I've got, that's got a button on the side that allows you to like change the kind of pen you're using. So you can change it to a highlighter, or like a pencil or a pen and things like that. You can do all of that with a basic pen, but you need to go into a setting on the device to do it, rather than having that button on the side. So the premium pen is slightly nicer. Having said that, and the other thing that the Scribe has got is notebooks. So let me go into a notebook. Let's create a new notebook. So you can create notebooks. You've got a range of different templates that you can use. So, you know, how do you want the lines set up and things like that. And then you can just, you know, make notes. So as you are reading, you can go into a notebook and make notes. And I know a number of people find this really, really useful. I've had to play around with it, but I haven't used it at all, really. I'm not a big note taker when I'm reading. I very rarely use the note feature within books on the Scribe, and I've hardly ever used the notebooks at all, other, as I say, than just having a bit of a play around with it. So the pen is really, really nice, and it works brilliantly. But for me, it's a nice to have. What I like about the Scribe, what I value about the Scribe, and what I use on the Scribe is that big screen, which is so nice to read on. It really is a delight to read on this device. You know, having 2 pages like that is really nice, and it is also I feel like I read more quickly on the Scribe because I'm turning the pages less frequently, if that makes sense. So that, you know, may be a consideration, but it's a lot more expensive. So the cheapest configuration of the Scribe, so the 16 gigabyte version with the basic pen, is £320 or $369. The most expensive version, which is the version I've got, which has 64 gigabytes of storage, and the premium pen, is £410 or $420. So when you consider, you know, like dollar-wise, so £420 for the most expensive Scribe versus $420 for the most expensive Scribe versus $100 for the basic. That's a hell of a difference if all you're going to do is read on it. If you're really into the note taking and things like that, then yeah, go with the Scribe. But if basically what you're going to be doing is reading books, as I said at the start, I think the basic is good enough for pretty much everyone. So I hope you found that useful. As I said at the start, this is very much a reader's perspective on these devices. So, you know, my thoughts as a reader, having read dozens, if not hundreds of books on all 4 of the devices. So yeah, I hope you found it useful. If there's any questions you've got, do leave them in the comments, and I will answer them if I can. And as always, thanks very much for watching. I hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.